Hi, this is GraphicallyAlex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. I'd also like to remind you guys to please turn on the notifications if you like the channel, just so that you make sure you're sent every single video. Oh my gosh, I almost got that out perfectly. So today, what I want to do is actually watch one of Brently G's videos. I don't know much about him, but I have been watching Alan Roberts a lot lately, and he did a video on him and he called him a liar and said that, like, basically his excuses for not losing weight at this time are all lies and that kind of thing. So I wanted to just see for myself if I think Brently is a liar because I don't know anything about him. I just recently was talking about the seasonal effects on weight loss. Uh, Literally my last video, I would not be shocked if that's also contributing to Brently's plateau, which I guess he's having a plateau. The thing is like, I think what frustrates me about people like Alan is that Brently, from what I researched, he's lost from about I think it was like 580 or something like that, to almost 420. So it says here he's lost 135 pounds. So I get frustrated with people like Alan because they act like they know everything, but Alan has never been like that size. You know, I've been almost 400 pounds. So as somebody who has been this big, I understand and I can respect Brently's efforts. Like, unless if he's lying about the numbers on the scale, that's very hard to do. It's hard to lose. And people, there's this sort of myth, there's this mythology that it's easier to lose weight from a really, really big size. It's not, because your appetite is a lot higher and you have more issues with mobility, you have more mental health issues, you're more likely to have an ED at that size, which is extremely difficult if you have BED. You're There's just so many other factors. You're so much more likely, drastically more likely, to have hypothyroidism, or at least severe symptoms of hypothyroidism. I saw in Brently's recent video that was on Alan's channel, Brently was talking about massive diarrhea all the time. I used to have that all the time. It's severe hypo. It's caused by SIBO, because your hypothyroidism is causing your stomach acid to be too weak. So it causes SIBO in your intestine tract, and also very high serotonin and things like that also cause diarrhea, as well as high estrogen, which Alan was sure to comment on the fact that Brently will have high estrogen at that size. So he knew that, which is true. But it's like, yeah, there's some issues going on here for sure. So I just want to preface that, like, as long as Brently isn't lying about the number on the scale, he at this point has my respect. If he's kept that weight off for any significant amount of time, then he has my respect. So I will admit I'm going into this video with a little bit of a bias, but this video is called What is Being Morbidly Obese Like, or something to that effect. So he's going to talk about morbid obesity. I want to see if he's snowing people, because I know what it's like to be morbidly obese, super morbidly obese. So if he's saying some stupid stuff that's not true, I know I'll be able to call it out. In the words of Alan, I'm an expert at this. Okay, I'm an expert of being super morbidly obese. I know exactly what it's like. I know what causes it. I know how it happens. I know why it's hard to get out. So I want to see what he says. So let's get into this. I know you guys like the drama. You guys are so funny. But, you know, I watch people. Let's go ahead.
being fat is such a weird experience because it's like something that's completely specific to you, but it's also something that millions of people are experiencing every single day. And it's both of those things at the same time. Like, every single person has a different journey of how they ended up being this fat and what they've done to try and get away from it, or if they're even trying to get away from it at all. Some people have like an enjoyment of being this big, which I can't understand. I can't relate.
I will say from this very beginning clip, he does have kind of an engaging personality. So I can see why a lot of people like him. Um, at the same token, I feel like he's not really saying anything. You know, it's individual, but it's, you know, millions of other people are going through it. It's like, yeah, that's like everything though. I could say that about knitting. Knitting my scarf is my own individual thing, but it's something that millions of people are doing. Like, it's not that interesting. So, for now, I will just harshly say, since I want to be as fair as possible, this is filler. Let's continue.
At all. This is awful. This is a punishment. It feels like my body is a flesh prison. But I want to
Relatable. So that's true. Fact. Fact check true.
I want to get out of it as quick as possible, and I make that effort to get out of it.
Yeah, you want to, but you can't always from that size. It's tough. It's tough to do as fast as possible. What matters most is sustainability and not gaining it back. That's what matters most, and certainly not gaining all of it back. I have talked about it many times on this channel, very controversially, but there will be weight gain throughout a weight loss journey. It is a factor, especially from a huge size. It can also correlate with the seasons. So just be aware. Don't be black pilled about it. Don't feel hopeless, but don't gain all your weight back and then some. That's bad. Oh my goodness, that's bad. So I think it just, I think we need a little bit less black and white thinking. But anyways, let's continue. I'm not saying Brently's saying that. I'm just saying in general. There's just so many misconceptions about weight loss from such a huge size. It drives me insane.
But some people, they love to be in it. And also, some people have.
I don't know if that's true. I think a lot of those people are lying, to be honest. I think a lot of people try to gaslight themselves into feeling like they love it because it's so hard to get out, and they stop believing that it's possible. So then they just settle for less, basically. Fat acceptance is a very settling for less mindset. It's a very pedestrian, low class way of thinking. I'm sorry. I know that that's harsh, but I have to be real. It's very like, let me accept meager living because I feel like I can't get out of it. That's what it is.
Like, I was just talking to someone on Instagram about the different ways that people, like, the fat sticks to their body, right? Like, I have fairly normal limbs, but all my fat is focused right onto my torso and my double chin. And that
It's more male pattern. It's more typically male, but it's very unhealthy, unfortunately. And typically, when you have visceral fat like this, it causes a lot of hormone issues. And that's why a lot of us men, we have worse issues when it comes to mood problems, depression, even fits of rage in terms of hypothyroidism and hormonal issues like too high of estrogen, too high of serotonin, or too low of serotonin, whatever. The serotonin stuff, it's a little bit hard to tell what's really happening. But the difference is that it's different. It's hitting you different because this visceral fat is having a massive hormonal change or causing a massive hormonal change in your body, especially as a man, because we tend to store fat in these areas. It's very hard. So I would not be surprised if Brently has horrific mood issues, or if he yells a lot or whatever, or gets angry or sad a lot of the time. So I think some of this like positive affect in his videos, it could be a little bit of an act, but it's not like negative. I think it's just people try to make the best with what they have and put their best foot forward. But it's hard. I don't do that here. We get real. I've talked a lot about how depressed I've been during this weight loss process. I'm the midnight rain to the sunshine YouTubers of weight loss. So I try to be very realistic and tell you guys, like, this can happen. This can happen. You know, this does occur, blah, blah, blah. Because I think the biggest thing is to just not stop completely and not do fat acceptance. Like, don't become a fat acceptance person. Like I said, it's just such a meager thing. Don't live a meager life like that. Okay, let's continue.
It's just this one like U-shaped thing of like gigantic fat, right? And then my limbs, my arms, fairly normal, right? I got a little bit of wing here on the bottom, but other than that, like look.
Bat wings for the win, period. You can't really see. That's the one thing about winter and fall / the duff season is that us duffs, we can actually cover up pretty easily. In the summer, I let my wings fly because now that I'm less hypo, I'm too hot. And I live in Alabama, so it's very, very hot here. And so I just let the wings fly. And it's scarring to everybody, I'm sure. But too bad. It'd be so horrible for the Alan Roberts of the world. I don't wear tank tops, though. I do have limits, so I have limits.
These completely normal people limbs, and you look at my calves, they're freaking built, and my thighs completely normal. Like I've just got normal.
I mean, they're fat, but it's definitely like I kind of can understand what he's saying. But what's fat is fat. Gotta call a spade a spade.
Legs, normal people arms, and then like my torso and double chin are gigantic. And I was thinking about those people.
The moon of hypo. See, like my moon face, I've been eating more, just to the horror of everybody, but my moon is not really there. I got a little bit of one if I go like this. That's because the hypo is strong, or the thyroid is pretty strong. My thyroid game is strong. You can check. Do the hypo check. Check your throat, you guys. Especially my fatties out there. Give it a check. You can see how you're doing.
You know, you see them on Tinder, you see them on, different places where they talk about, people being catfished and whatnot. They're catfishing with their own face, They zoom in real close and take a selfie, right? And they're the people who don't have double chins, right? They're gigantic like me, but they don't have the double chins because the fat doesn't stick to their double chin.
I put my weight on my profiles. I put it on blast. I don't want to ever fat fish somebody. So I think my weight, about 300 pounds. My weight, it kind of sounds bigger than the way I look. I think just because I'm a muscly 300, so it's a little different. But yeah, I put the number out there. I don't want anybody to be like, oh my God. No, I'm not interested in lying.
They just have normal people faces, and it's such a thing like that. You want to. Like I almost want to make a trade, like I want to be those people. Like I would like give up my arms. Like I would have fat arms in order to have like the sharp jawline again. Before I got fat, I was a pretty normal sized kid in school, and I had the sharpest jawline. Oh my God, like you can kind of make out a bit of it if I like force myself, but like at one point it was so freaking sharp and I looked gorgeous. I looked absolutely beautiful.
Oh
I was
my
a
God.
handsome guy. And now it's gone because I got so fat. I lost my jawline. And the jawline is something that a lot of people pay attention to. And it's something like I wouldn't use it to catfish. I don't think I would. I don't know what I would be in that universe. I don't know what decisions I would make, but it would be.
Okay, are we going to get to substance, Brently? I'm waiting. Fingers are snapping. Where's the substance? There's more to morbid obesity than dating profiles and double chins. Let's get to some substance.
fun to get the compliments. I would post a lot more selfies on Instagram, I feel like. But yeah, it just sticks to different people in different ways. You can see the people on like my 600 pound life. They get so fat, but then a lot of
Okay, so the breathing is there. I had breathing issues. I still kind of do, to be honest. It's not completely resolved, but I had pretty severe breathing issues when I was at my highest. I was in the 380s and I could barely breathe. It was horrible. And I can hear his breathing. It's a little labored. It's very sad. Because I'm wondering if he's going to talk about that or not. But I will. I will.
focuses onto their legs, and when it gets onto the legs like that, you get all sorts of abscesses and all sorts of
He's coming from a much bigger size, so he's thinking more about those things. I wasn't quite thinking about that. I was just like so unhealthy that I'm just like, am I even going to be alive? In a couple months. Like, that's kind of where I was, because I don't know how some people's bodies are stronger where they can just like kind of chug along from really high sizes. But for me, I think it was just because I gained so much weight, specifically eating like chips, which is such a horrific type of fat in those oils, that I think it like accelerated my health issues. And um, it's I think it just made it so bad from a smaller size even. That's why my metabolism was so trashed. I couldn't lose weight for a year and a half. In part because of keto as well, because keto slows your metabolism, which I know that would really upset Alan. Oh my God, I got his name wrong. But, it slows the metabolism. It does. I will tell the truth. And people hate it if you say that. They hate it. The freaking dogma.
diseases related to that: the inability to move, the inability to clean yourself, the inability to fit
It's
into.
sad. So that stuff is true. I could still do all that. I was still relatively independent. I was never bedbound, but it was hard. It was very hard to like walk and stuff. I was struggling.
Shower. And having fat legs is something that's completely awful. Something I don't have, because I have the skinny people legs, right? I have like average size legs.
Functional legs. I get what he's saying.
I'm not the gigantic leg guy. So I can still fit in an average size shower. I can still clean myself and all those.
It's a huge thing. I struggled. I didn't struggle with the shower quite, but like there were times when I lost my balance. It was really horrible. It was horrible. I'm telling you, like, there's so many times, like, not so many, but there was quite a few times when I would fall because, like, I couldn't quite. When you're really big like that, your center of gravity is just kind of off, and it's really hard. And luckily, like, I didn't get hurt when I fell, but I could have. I could have, like, hit my head on the corner of the counter or something. It's kind of scary, but yeah.
That I need to. I can still, walk far. Something with having the big legs like that. Your mobility is so limited that it's like you're carrying around all that extra weight in your legs, and it's just like very, very difficult to even be as active as I am. I'm right now at this point. I've worked for it, but I can run 45 minutes on the elliptical, and that's something that's very impressive for.
Yeah, that is impressive. So I did see Alan scoff at that because he talked about that in his other video where he said he's struggling with losing weight. I don't think that's anything to scoff at, Alan. Like, I don't think Alan's ever been, that big. Because it's truly, when he's saying he can do that, I guess there could always be an element of untruth in what he's saying. But I was like 380, 370s, and I could walk for like 3 or 4 hours, even 5 hours, because I walk as a part of my job. So I'm working and I'm walking 4 or 5 hours a day at that size. That's some serious energy, and that was also part of what kept me going on my diet, because it was like, this is incredible that I can actually do this. Um, but no, I understand what he's saying. It's tough. And the thing is, like, being as in shape as you can be at a bigger size, it is better than not being in shape, because your whole life is like one big workout. So, I would always go slow or suggest only doing exercise if you can handle it, which again, you have to make calls at these sizes. It's very hard. And if you can just not handle working out, then you have to just focus on the dieting aspect. Um, until you can handle working out. But it's very good. Like, I can tell that he has put in some kind of effort, because he can do something like that in the 400s. That's pretty good, in my opinion. As somebody who was almost 400 pounds, it wasn't easy for me to walk like that. I had to, because it was my job. So I had to like force myself, and thank God I went to the gym before I started this more active job, because oh my gosh. Ugh. And of course, I fell off the gym, but I started it in fall of 2021, and then I dropped off in the winter. I couldn't do it anymore, but thank God I did it. Thank God I tried, because then I could do this other job. And then I had to build up my endurance even further in 2022. It's hard. So, no, I'm not going to scoff at that. That isn't something to scoff at. That's pretty good.
I have my weight, but that's because I had the legs that were open enough that I could run on the elliptical in the beginning for 15 minutes. Like I started out being able to.
That's good though, because you're also getting it more under control and not getting to the point where you have those issues, because it could have definitely happened, and it could still happen if you were to regain everything and then some.
run for 15 minutes. Then I slowly built up over time the ability to run for 45 minutes. And if I did
I wonder if he's doing it more naturally or if he had surgery. I don't know anything about him, so I need to probably do more research. This is just a complete first impression.
have that ability, like if I had the gigantic legs, I wouldn't have been able to get that. I feel like it would have been a lot more of a challenge, because if you can't move and you're having the chafing and the infections and all that, you're not going to want to do it, and you're going to be a little bit ashamed because there might be a little bit of a, I don't know, a smell that comes with that. I feel like.
You could still try to do some arm stuff. And honestly, at that size, just walking very slowly across the house or across your place, or getting up and sitting back down, stuff like that, it's enough of a workout. But even doing stuff with your arms, it's just, you got to start where you're at. Just start small. Like I said, I'm not speaking from experience there. I was never that big, but that's what I would suggest, is starting as small as you can and working from there. You do get stronger. That's a part of exercise. You get stronger.
you know that's an embarrassing thing, and that's why I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade my legs for the double chin to go away. I would never ever give away my skinny people legs. That is not even in the question. Like, that is something I am extremely grateful for. And you have to be empathetic with people who have the gigantic legs. That's a hard thing to go through, because not only are you trapped in the big body, like I said earlier in the video, I feel like I'm trapped in my body because I'm so heavy and so limited and so, I don't know, tired, pretty like
True.
much all the time. And to be like as tired as I am now, but also your legs are huge and your mobility is so limited.
It must be horrible. I describe it. I describe the feeling of super morbid obesity as drowning. It feels like you're drowning on a daily basis, and there's no quick way out. So it's very much like the water has to slowly recede over time. It's very painstaking. It's just, It's like a hell. It's horrible. It really is. That's why I always will tell you guys, like, don't let it get that bad. Turn around. Don't ever let it get that bad because, for me personally, I'm kind of glad I have experienced it because I can understand it and I can understand other people and hopefully help other people someday to get out of it. But it's like for most people, no. Do not go there. Turn it around. Stat. Like take it seriously. I think that's the biggest thing with young people is they don't take it seriously. It's serious. You don't want to feel like you're drowning all the time. Because when the breathing problems come in, it is just horrible.
Can only imagine like being the feeling of being trapped like in your bed, like
Yeah.
these people that you see with the big legs, they're stuck in their bed because they can't move very much, so they lay in their bed 8 maybe 12 hours a day just watching TV and consuming donuts and pizza and whatever people bring them because they can't get up, they can't go out and make their own food. They're trying, like, I can get up, I can make the right decisions, I can make those choices for myself, and I can do those things. I'm the one who is in control of my own diet, but these people with the big legs, they can't move. They
So I will say it's interesting that he's talking less about himself and he's comparing himself to even bigger people. I find that odd. Do you guys find that odd at all? So I do wonder why he's doing that so much in this video. Like, I want to hear about your experience. I don't want to hear about like other people's experience from you in terms of that. If you're opening up and talking about this, I'm interested in what you have to say about how your morbid obesity is because you are still super morbidly obese at your current size. So I want to hear about it. So I do find that interesting.
they got to rely on other people to make their decisions, and that's a terrifying notion to me. Having like I've always been a little bit scared of having someone else in control of me. Like I've never felt right when somebody else was calling the shots. Not in a management sort of way. I'm fine with like managers or principals or teachers. I was always very well behaved in that way. But like when somebody else is wielding absolute control over me, like anytime I was around a police officer or someone who could shoot me dead in a moment. Anyone like that, that always freaked me out. Like that was always a terrifying thing. Like anyone who like if I disobeyed, there would be like big consequences. That makes me nervous. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being fat and being trapped in your body. But like you see, there when you're trapped in that severe big leg obesity, they're the one making all the decisions, and I just couldn't do that. I feel like I'd be stuck in that bed. I saw these workouts you can do while laying in bed on this Japanese page for like workouts and fitness. It's like a workout you can do while laying in bed that just strengthens up your legs, and I feel like if I was in that sort of a mess where my legs were so fat, I would be constantly just trying my best to build
I
that
get
leg
that.
muscle, shrink down that fat. I know you can't like specifically target a place to lose fat on. Like I've heard that that's not a real thing that you can do, but I feel like that would be, everything I was trying to do, trying to regain my mobility. I'm claustrophobic, right? Like I'm very, very claustrophobic. If you lock me in a room, like I'm gonna be trying to get out the whole time. I cannot be locked in a place. One time, my boys, like my friends and I, we were playing around, wrestling, roughhousing, and then one guy shouts, "Doggy pile on Brent," and then he jumps on me, and then another guy jumped on top of him, and then there was about 6 guys on top of me, and I was having such a fear response that I was able to lift up, like, I don't know, I think it was 4 maybe 5 guys, and then just throw them off of me, and then wiggle my way out. It was scary. It was scary. I cannot do tight spaces, and the ultimate, like, obesity is like the ultimate tight space because it is a trapped environment that you need to spend months and months escaping. Like
That's very true. So yeah, That's true. Fact check true. I literally just said that.
Even with diving, when you're diving, there's a claustrophobia thing that comes with that because if you're like down there and a school of jellyfish comes by or something and they're about to sting the crap out of you, you gotta go up just a little bit, like 2 feet at a time, so you don't get the bends. Because if you immediately go up, then all the carbon dioxide in your body, it's gonna decompress, and then that instantly,
Oh,
well,
wow.
not instantly, it gives you like a bad sickness that takes days to kill you. But that's a very claustrophobic thing. Imagine being deep under the water and your mobility is limited and you cannot get fresh air and you got to spend all that time getting up. But that's
Look at how we literally said it the same way. I said it's like drowning. He said it's like being far underwater. That's what it feels like. It really does.
and months and months. That's obesity. That's being trapped in obesity because you could spend a year, maybe two, just scrambling and crying and trying everything you had, but like especially if you don't have the information, like there's so much knowledge and science out
Yeah, this is facts. This is very true.
there that you need in order to lose this fat, in order to gain back this sort of gain back your mobility and escape this trap you're stuck in. But
The even bigger kicker is that what works for one phase of it sometimes doesn't work for the other. And then you throw in the seasonal complexity. It's kind of tough, and it's not something that is really talked about appropriately, which is why I'm really trying to help change the conversation about this because it's tough. And somebody at his size, somebody at my size, we're not going to lose all the weight in a year. That's not going to happen. We're certainly not going to lose all of it in 6 months. It's not going to happen. So it's just very like it's very frustrating to see the way the narrative of it is, you know, at this time. It's just like, you know,
if you're limited like that, you may not have the information. If you're limited like that, you may not.
it's also actively suppressed. In the case of seed oils, they will do everything they can to not talk about it. You have to look within articles of articles of articles because they hide it. And even if something shows that it's not good, they won't say it flat out because there's such a dogma around certain things within science. And a lot of scientists don't want to say things that go against what other people are saying, even if their evidence is showing that. Science is not perfect, but that's why you do have to try things, unfortunately. And this has to change. It has to change. We need to have like good universities. Our universities do not foster independent thinking. They foster groupthink. And oh, I don't want my study to stand out from the other ones. No. That's not how universities should work. That's not how institutions should work. It's horrible the way it is right now. And you wonder why things haven't progressed.
The ability, and it's also an addiction, right? Like most addictions, right?
It can be for some people, absolutely. But I do not conflate ED with addiction. I don't see them as the same thing. An ED is a trauma response, usually rooted in anxiety and in physical sensation. An addiction is within a substance in and of itself, particularly like drugs or alcohol. Food, it can be an addiction, but typically people that have eating addiction alone, they typically will turn it around at smaller weights because the obesity and the feeling of drowning is worse than not having the food because food isn't the most addictive thing in the world. It just isn't. Not compared to other drugs. It just isn't. And people are always like, oh my gosh, it is. Da, da, da. No, it's not. Like if you have an ED, you have an ED. That's a whole other thing. But it's the behavior. It's not the actual food. It's the behavior of eating. It's the feeling of swallowing. that you're craving. It doesn't actually matter what you're eating. And if you are a BED person, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not the same. The only other way that people get that huge is through severe hormone problems, which people do have severe untreated hormone issues as well. But typically, people who are huge, 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 there's a history of BED. And it's very sad because it's usually rooted in trauma, and that's where you see a lot of fat people having trauma issues. It's because they develop BED as a response to especially childhood trauma. So an addiction is different, but it can be, like, you can be addicted to food. It's just people usually will quit. They usually will stop. That's more like a Michelle McDaniel. Like, I know she still has her cravings and she still wants it, but she never got that big. That's an example of an eating addiction type of person. She still talks about hot Cheetos all the time. Like, she loves hot Cheetos, but she never got that big. Like, usually there has to be some more stuff going on to get big, big, big. Okay. So anyways, I don't like that conflation either. It's very frustrating. It's not helpful. Because if you can see your BED as an anxiety response, then you can start to resolve it. Because there is this dogma that you can never get rid of BED. That's not true. You have to develop other coping mechanisms and then you can cure it. But they're always like, no, you can never cure it. No. Just because you haven't doesn't mean you can't. Find a new coping mechanism. Find something else to do. It's frustrating. I'm telling you guys, I am just so tired of so many of these narratives. Like, I really am. Okay.
You're not limiting your mobility. In fact, most of them are very skinny and very wily. But with obesity, you're addicted to the food. You just keep putting it in your mouth, and you don't have the cognizance, to release yourself from that. You don't have the just like ability to escape your patterns. A lot of the time you don't even realize.
You do have the ability to. So that's not true. You absolutely do. So I will never, any fat person that's watching this, I will tell you, you absolutely have the ability to get out of it, and you're always choosing not to. So let's keep that 100, okay? Just because you don't have the ability to get out of it instantly doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to get out of it. If you are super morbidly obese for many, many, many years, you could have already gotten out of it. I think the longest it would take is probably around 5 years, depending how big you are. If you've been that way for 15 years, you could have been out of it already.
You're doing it. It took me a while to clue in that I was getting so big. I don't think I really.
Yeah, he sounds like a BED case because there's a lot of denial in BED, and there's a lot of like, you try not to feel your feelings, or you try to sort of like dissociate out of certain things, because the feelings and stuff give you anxiety, and that anxiety is what drives you to eat.
Realized I was mega fat until.
And a lot of the people too that will hide food, that won't, that do that kind of stuff, that's also BED. Or people that say, I don't know how I'm fat. You have BED. That's a BED person. Because they're kind of dissociating while they're doing it. And they're trying not to remember it because it's so embarrassing. Because a part of it is shame too. It's a whole ass mental disorder. And it doesn't get any credit at all. But it is a mental illness. It absolutely is. It is a full-blown, absolute mental illness. Okay? So let's give that the attention it needs. It's not an addiction. Anna is not an addiction. Neither is BED. Think of them in the same way. They're a lot more similar than they're different.
Well into the 500s. I mean, I really already screwed myself over. Like, I had been told I was fat all my life, My mom was a big dietary person. She had always been trying to lose weight, and my friends were brutal. You know how boys are. You know, we tease each other. And I was the fattest guy in the group, so they were always like, "Hey, Lardo, hey, you want a donut? You want a pizza? Oh, where's your chocolate?"
Well, me and my friend Eric, we're calling each other the Duff now. So I call him Duffy. And then he calls me the Duff as well. So he said, because I canceled something with him, and he said I got stood up by another Duff. That's what he told me. And I said, you sure did.
It's like,
You sure did, Duffy.
oh. But still, I wasn't that fat, you know? I was a chubby guy. I was certainly large, but I wasn't to the degree that I.
Eric isn't even fat, but he's just like, he's thick. Okay, I think by fitness standards, he's kind of thick. But he transitioned off of keto. And I am going to do a video with him about that, about his transition to a more pro-thyroid lifestyle from keto. And I think he did super well. He barely gained any weight at all, like so strict. He's like crazy. But he's going to do like a super intense regime because he wants to get abs next year. So I'm going to just like leech off of his experiences and share them with you. Okay? That's what we do.
Now, or even to the degree that I was at my biggest. Like that was an insane degree. But you see, I didn't notice a difference because I had always been told I was fat. You know, it just wasn't different the way people were treating me. In fact, I think they were treating me nicer when I was at my biggest because they were like, "Oh, this is a serious thing now. We shouldn't make jokes about this because he might actually die from this." And I think there's a certain.
That's true. You do get treated better when you're very big. I've talked about the mid-fat issue. So I will tell you that, Brently, when you get to be around 300, 350, 325, or in that range, you're the Duff. The designated ugly fat friend at that size. And you're ignored. And people are not super nice, and you lose a lot of attention, and it may affect your YouTube at that time, and it affects a lot of things. So you just got to push through. I feel like I'm on slightly the other side of that. Barely, but of course I plateaued. So I couldn't get into small fat land where it would get better. I have to just plateau right at mid duff just to like really stay that designated ugly fat friend for this winter. So that was great for me. God has a sense of humor, I'll tell you that much. Let's continue. I won't bother you guys with my deafness. Let's keep going.
Pity that comes along with that that makes people treat you nicer. You know, so as they soften the blows, you also don't notice that you're getting fat until you are so severely limited that one.
Well, you have to be like really dissociated. Like I always noticed how fat I was. But that could be him. You know, I'm not going to take that away from him. I think you do notice. I think you try to ignore it, or you try to downplay it, or you try to say, oh, I don't look that much bigger, until you see a picture of yourself and you're like, oh my God, I'm huge. I'm like a huge cow. I still have moments like that now, but I'm so aware of how big I am now. It's kind of insane. So I think I have a very realistic interpretation of how big I am. But yeah, typically you just dissociate, or you don't want to think about it, or you try not to think about it. You just try to never think about it. So if you can think about something in your life that you just don't want to be true, or you don't want to actually think about, that's what a lot of very fat people do, especially with BED. You try to act like it's not happening, but then you see it, you have like a crying episode, or you get really upset about how you look, and you hate your body, and you have this whole moment. And that typically happens like after, when you've eaten a lot and stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a huge body image issue as well. Like, so yeah, he's describing BED. This is BED. This is what it looks like. If somebody is unaware of how big they're getting, they probably have BED.
You just like weigh yourself, or you do something that is so limited or so difficult that you realize you have this snapping moment where it's like claustrophobic, and you like actually try to rip the fat off your body. That's what I did when I realized I was so fat. I woke up like I felt like I was waking up from a coma, and I was like 7 billion pounds, and I was just like trying to rip it off. Like, oh my god, I'm so claustrophobic, trapped in my body, and
Yeah, that must have been his, because he must have really dissociated from it. I was always very aware, so I think that could be more individually based. I was always trying to lose. I was always trying to do something because I didn't want to stay that way. And so I searched and searched until I found the answer.
that was that was
I know how many times, I know that that would piss off so many people. So I just have to stick my tongue out, you know? I'm coming for blood today. I'm just kidding.
great thing, you know. I had that moment twice in my life. After I graduated high school, I graduated at around like 250 pounds, and that's, pretty average size.
Dang, how tall is he? I was 350 when I graduated high school. Dang. He must have gained even more.
6'4" guy.
Oh, okay.
But then as time went on, I eventually went up, and about a year after I graduated, I was 300 pounds. I stepped on the scale for the first time in quite a while,
Oh.
and
Yeah, I weighed more than him. Oh my gosh, that's really scarring. I was 350 when I graduated high school. I gained 50 pounds my senior year. I was like really in my ED, really, really, really badly as a teenager. Very, very terribly. So, but I've had times where it got much worse. But the worst it ever was, I will always say, you guys will hear me repeat it, it was 2018. It was that year. That was the absolute worst. I had the most horrific relapse of my ED during that time. And I did have a final relapse in 2020. But it still wasn't as bad as 2018, which is crazy, all things considered.
I found that I was 300 pounds, and I was so terrified of that. I was like, I can't be 300 pounds. I wasn't even comfortable with myself at 240. I'm awful. And then I like literally again tried to rip the fat off my body, and I went so insane. Like I had a good job at the time, luckily, so I was able to hire myself a personal trainer, and I stuck with her for quite a while. And I lost so much weight. I was doing so good. I got down to 220 pounds. And my jawline was immaculate, and I was getting compliments from everyone, and I was super happy, and it was a super great time. And then I got into restaurant work, and I started to get fat from that. You get a free meal every day, and you get a discount at the gas station, and so you do a little bit of snacking. And also, I fell into kind of the wrong crowd, started drinking and stuff, and then there was a lot of calories in the snacks and the.
A lot of estrogen in the alcohol too. A lot of PUFA in the restaurants. Lots of seed oils. It's a bad combination, but he must have relapsed, so you can. But you have to fix the underlying issues. It's a huge part of it. Like, I don't know. I feel like my whole identity has just been excavated, carved out, and everything has been ripped out at the root. I feel like I feel like a demon has been exorcised out of me over the past few years, especially this year. Gosh. But it is what it is, right? It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Meals and the drinking and all that. And it was a brutal scene, but it really didn't get brutal until I had the emotional issues, with my mother dying and all the hard stuff that was going.
It's horrible. So trauma as well. So trauma as well can affect hormones. It can also obviously reactivate EDs and that kind of stuff, especially from a really bad, if you're hanging by a thread kind of thing and something like that happens, especially losing your mother, that must have been so devastating. That's really hard. I can't even imagine. Like, it's just like, oh man. Yeah.
In my life, there was a ton of it. I don't want to bog you guys down with how much negative stuff was happening at that time, because most of it's over. My mother's still dead, but yeah, I ended up getting hugely fat in a matter of like 7 months.
Oh my
Like seriously.
gosh, that's crazy. 7 months. That's a massive BED episode. Typically, BED episodes, they last maybe like 2 or 3 months, and sometimes even shorter. Because that's another misconception. People think that it goes on forever. It doesn't. Typically, what happens is you have an episode and you gain weight during that episode, and then you plateau because your body naturally tries to stay at its maintenance, at its equilibrium. So you'll stay there, and then something else will happen or you have another trigger, and then you'll go up even further. And then you also have the compounding factor of maybe doing certain diets that cause hypothyroidism or that exacerbate hypothyroidism, that make it worse. So you try keto, you try vegan, you try cut way too many calories, you overtrain, you don't sleep, you do this stuff, you drink too much alcohol, you have too much weed, you do all these types of things. A lot of people do this throughout their 20s. And so then you have like the BED aspect, and then you also have the hypo aspect, and they're like racing. And then because you're so hypo, you can just gain so much weight. So it must have been like a colliding of factors for him. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. This is all adding up to me. I don't see lies yet, Alan. This sounds real.
You can look on my Instagram, the old.
He described the alcohol, he described the types of food he was eating, lots of seed oils, he described the trauma, and he's already described, maybe even unknowingly, a lot of symptoms of BED that he likely has. I can't diagnose, but I will say he very likely has it. You could say in some ways it takes one to know one.
It was just like from I was around like 300, 350, and then in like 7 months, I went. Like you can see, my jawline was fairly normal in one picture that was in like November of 2017, and then like between November of 2017 and June of 2018, I think it is. You can
Dang, he gained weight at the same time. Twins! I gained, I think, 30 pounds in 4 months in 2018. But I think, I can't remember exactly. It was either 30 pounds in 4 months or 40 pounds in 3 months. It was one or the other, but it was so much. I think it was 30 pounds because I went from like around 345 to 375 in 3 months. And I was so, I was eating 7,500 calories a day every single day. And I was eating nonstop. I would eat from the moment I woke up. I would go to work at the airport and I'd be constantly going to the vending machine all day. And then I would come home and eat again, just every single day for 3 or 4 months. And then I tried getting it under control. So, but yeah. Twins! Look at us. We were gaining weight at the same time. What a weird thing. Isn't that weird?
see that I got way, way fatter, and
Yeah.
that was something that hit hard. That was something that was like
Oh, yeah. It feels horrible. You feel so much worse. When you gain that much weight that quickly, you feel horrible. My health took a complete shit. I started having chest pains. I started having panic attacks. I started having drastically worse hypo symptoms. And because I didn't know that I was becoming severely hypothyroid, I developed hypochondria as well. So I started fearing I was dying multiple times. Like when I had my chest pain, I thought I was having a heart attack. It's like because it's so much worse, and like that effect on your mental health, your physical health, like everything, it's so much worse so fast. It really hits you like a train. It can. Especially because it's just so fast. It's hard for the body to adjust. So I believe him. That must have been horrible.
wreckage. I don't know. It was I was just so big. and you didn't notice it until, one day you go to do a 10-minute walk with someone to see an attraction, and you have to take multiple breaks on this 10-minute walk. Like,
That's
I had to
sad.
lean against a tree, sit on a bench, and then when we got to the attraction,
I was still active at that time because I had a job that was active, but I did not want to be. It was horrible. Like, I hated having to do anything. I barely did my job. I barely did. I didn't want to do it. It was just so horrible to move. It was horrible.
it took me a while to go down because I had to sit on the bench and rest. And there was like a big staircase that went down, and I was like, I'm not doing those stairs. Then eventually I worked up the courage to go down, and then it took me quite a while to get back up the stairs when we were done seeing the attraction.
Oh,
And that was embarrassing and
that
it was
is
difficult. And then I got home and I was like,
probably pouring sweat. Can't catch your breath. That's horrible.
yeah, I'm a mess. I'm scared. I need to do something.
That's why I always tell you guys get your fat friends out of the house because you can see how limited you are. And that gives you motivation. So we always talk about motivation here because we're here about real solutions. So he literally proves my point. His friend took him out. He tried to go upstairs. He dealt with this type of stuff and it gave him a reality check. That's what you want. That's what's helpful. That provides the motivation, which would mean you can't have, you know, certain people that don't ever want to see a fat person in public. You don't want to help anybody then because that's what helps. Is something like that.
And that, there's like awakening moments, where you realize how bad you screwed yourself up and you need to do it. And then after that, I again made the decision that I need to start losing weight again. And yeah, 1,000. I lost 140 pounds in 7 months after that. And then
Wow, that's crazy. Wow. So that's huge. That's very huge. I just hope you did it right. I don't know what he's doing, but it could be causing hypo with what he's doing. But that is incredible.
from there, after that, I ended up gaining a lot of the weight back. And then I just decided.
Gosh, you'd think I'm psychic. You'd think I'd watch this already. I promise you I did not. No, I don't want anybody to be like, Alex is a liar. Alex is a liar. He watched this. No, I'm just psychic, okay? Psychic. No, I just know obesity. I know it. I know this, okay? So he probably didn't do it right, and he gained it back.
Wanted to do weight loss again. I didn't have another awakening moment. I just wanted to continue to do it. I just was like, hey, yeah, I need to actually do this. So yeah, everybody has a different journey, and that was mine.
Yeah, I feel for him. I think it's just, let me, ooh, I don't know what I did. I just want him on here because I want to like talk a little bit. I just think it's really like, I wouldn't be surprised. This is going to sound really harsh, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has some mood issues, like I said. So if he struggles with relationships and stuff, all I can say is I don't judge you. I understand it. I've struggled myself. It's very hard and people will judge and it is what it is. But you just have to be in your own corner and you have to get out. So yeah, I think that it's a struggle for sure. But there is a way out. I'm trying to formulate, I'm trying to make it clear, I'm trying to show you. Even the Allens of the world who'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. I used to get those comments all the time. I don't as much now, but it's because like I'm doing it because those kinds of people, they don't understand that very fat people have to see it be done. It's not for you. It's for the mega fatties. It's for people who are beyond the duff. I became a duff, okay? But that's why I'm losing it publicly. Because you have to see that it's possible. You have to know I wasn't just a Michelle McDaniel. I didn't just lose 40 pounds or whatever. I wasn't one of those. You have to know I didn't even just lose 100, right? It's like, no. I've lost 86 pounds of fat. That's not too far from what Alan has lost. This guy has already lost more than that too. It is harder the more you have to lose, but it's not impossible. So I'm doing it this way so you can see. That's why it's for future posterity. That's what I'm doing it for publicly. Otherwise, yeah, I would just wait and talk about it then. But it's like, no, I know the most effective way to undermine fat acceptance narratives and to help other people is to show it happen, to show it in real time. And I have my playlist where I talk about it on this channel, and I can always refer to that, and people can see everything from March of 2021 until now, or until the end of this journey. So it's like, I want that catalog so people can see what I went through and what happened. And that I was that big and I did actually lose that weight. Okay? It's calculated. Weight loss is a calculated move. I like that I said that. I'm just so amazing, you guys. Anyways, I need to go before I get all weird. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. I know you guys like sass, so I brought it because I feel it in my soul. But I will talk to you guys again soon. I wanted to check this out. I'm definitely going to follow him. I'm going to see his journey. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment below. And I will talk to you guys again later. Bye.